17 out of 21. There's 3 big days left. The car is like a few days down the road. In the middle of nowhere, I just overworked the electrical system and it shorted the stator. I was all alone, highly emotional and scared a little bit.
My goal this year is to stop drinking coffee. There's not a chance. I gotta say, I missed you. I missed being in front of this camera. I've been on a little break over the Christmas break, but it's good to see you again. And today we are going over the question and answer for my latest film, Mile by Mile. And I thank you for everyone who sent in questions. There were so many. I'm gonna try to get to as many of them as possible today. And I gotta say, you asked some great questions. It wasn't just all gear focused, which gets me excited because it says there's a lot of filmmakers watching this channel. So let's jump right into things and let's get the technical out of the way. First question we're looking at here is from Zachariah Abed. He asked, what lights and lenses used? For lights, I used my Falcon Eyes here. We attached it to the ceiling and grip armed it. I also used my Aperture 300D. For the interviews, I used my Aperture 300D, giant softbox, looks great. And then besides that, I used my Nanlite PAV tube for a couple of the shots. And then besides that, almost all available light. And for lenses, I used Helios, of course, 44-2, Sigma 24 Art Series, a bit of the Sigma 50, and then I also used a Canon 70-200. Why I didn't use Sony? I just don't own one. They're expensive lenses. I'll maybe get one eventually. Next question is from Craster Ryan. Do you shoot the B-roll after you've gotten your cues from your interviews? Or do you just follow a rough pre-production draft and then align it with the interview later? I kind of do a combination of the two. I definitely do a pre-interview with the person, kind of understand a little bit about their story, but I don't get into the emotional side because I want that to be fresh. And then that gives me some ideas for B-roll. But then I talk about this a lot in our Art of Documentary course, the sandwich schedule. I start off. Definitely don't start off. I start off by shooting a bit of B-roll when I first meet them, get them warmed up to the camera. I don't want to go right into an interview because that is intimidating. And then, based on what I hear from the interview, I will pick up some new scenes for B-roll. But I don't try to shoot everything in one day. I like spacing it over a couple days. I'll go do one day of filming, go review that footage, listen back to the interview, and then plan out the rest of the film from there. I don't put all the pressure on my shoulders to try to achieve it in one day. If I have to shoot it in one day, it's always going to be a bit worse of a film. Tom Knoll asks, in your course, The Art of Documentary, you and Michael constantly are talking about the crucial need for conflict and how it will carry a story. I'm wondering how you see it here in this film. Was it something you knew ahead of time discovering it? But simply put, Tom, I don't go out and shoot a story unless I know there's conflict. And what I mean by conflict is that there's a challenge at hand or some sort of journey the person has been through that I'm retelling. If it's just an interesting person and there's no conflict or journey or an adventure that they've gone on or are going on, then I won't shoot the film. So that question I don't discover necessarily once I begin filming. I discover it before I start filming, or at least have an idea. Sometimes the conflict evolves once you begin filming, but don't go shoot a film unless there's some sort of challenge that your person is trying to overcome or a question that you're trying to answer with your film. Adrian Winters asks, how did I go about choosing music for this film? Well, that is a great question. Before I start filming, I find music inspires a lot of the sequences, the mood, and the tone of my films. So I go create a playlist, and in this case, it was off MusicBed. I sent it to my editor ahead of time. I began writing down some ideas for shots that I felt the images inspired me. I also went back and watched some old Dakar rallies and just played music off of MusicBed, and it's almost as if I got to see the film ahead of time. This is where I really encourage you to go listen to music before you start filming. And the music from this was entirely from MusicBed. And surprise, they've sponsored today's video. You can use a coupon code I have down below, which will get you 1 free month for your subscription. It's really cool now is their subscriptions are tailored for you. It's not just one type of subscription for every type of filmmaker. They go on, you have a questionnaire when you purchase your 1-year subscription, and it will tailor it to exactly the needs you have. So the pricing is based on that. So go check out MusicBed. You can also sign up for free and start listening to all the music you want on there. It's a great way to be inspired for your films. So you can sign up for free, or if you want to start downloading and adding in your films, they have subscriptions tailored to your needs.
And you have to get to the start line the next day or you're out. That's why it's considered the toughest event, because it's not easy. I had a lot of people along the way tell me that I was insane or crazy.
Sandu asks, what resolution and profile did I shoot on this? Well, we shot DCI 4K, so that's 4096 width by something else in height. Put the number right now. And I also shot S-Log 3. A lot of people have asked me how I color corrected this. Legitimately, I shoot S-Log 3 and then I just place the MB Sony Cinema LUT on there. I do it for everything. Actually, for this video right now, that's exactly what I'm doing. I have the Sony Cinema LUT. I've tailored this and I've worked on this LUT for years, and for me, it's just what I shoot with. I use it on set and then I use it in post, and so I know exactly what I'm shooting on set when I apply the LUT on my small HD monitor is exactly what I'm using in post. So I'm on my Cine 7 monitor and I put the LUT on there. I'm looking at the exposure and viewing everything through that LUT so that I know when I go to post, there's no surprises. I know exactly what I'm working with, and I just color the entire thing with the Sony Cinema LUT. I had another question come in from Tap Production. Who does your sound effects and mastering? It's none other than the master, Steve Barden. Incredible sound designer. Steven, you crushed it on this. You guys can go check out him. I'll put a link to his IMDb below.
I thought it was over, and of course I'd spent my whole life looking forward to finishing this rally, and I was so close to the end. The disappointment.
Steven did an amazing job adding the sound effects and the punches for when there was accidents. If you really want to enjoy this, get some good headphones on, turn up the sound. Steven is an incredible sound mixer and sound designer. And fun note, he taught me in college. Jake Burley asks, on a project like this, how much input do you give to the story the subject is telling? Did you come up with a script together, or are all these his words? Love the film, by the way. Well, thank you, Jake. I would say it's a combination of that. In this case, I took a lot of notes. I did an hour-long phone call with Lawrence before we ever started the film. This was because I was trying to find out if there was conflict in him retelling his story, and we did find that. You know, his bike broke down in the race, and for Lawrence, this race was more of an existential thing for him. It wasn't just about completing the race, but it was about him completing a life goal and proving to himself, his soul, his spirit, that he could do this. And so that was very interesting to me. So I did the first interview, but then when we went to the post-production, we realized there was a lot of quotes we were missing to help tell a complete story. So Lewis, our editor, just put his voice in for those moments. And so we had the film finished, but we were still missing quotes from Lawrence. So I just went and met with him. And at one point, I got him to say them in his own words, and then I would show him what I had written down, and Lawrence would agree, yeah, that's something I would say. So he would say that. It depends the person. Sometimes they want it to be exactly in their own words, or sometimes you can help them just say certain things to explain certain parts of the story. I try not to put words in people's mouth unless it's something really specific for the story, like I rode 10,000 kilometers. I might get them to say that.
The disappointment of not finishing was a powerful force to keep going. It's far easier to put up with 3 weeks of hardship than a lifetime of disappointment.
Michael, I can't say that name, but he asks, how do I meet all these incredible people and decide to tell their stories? Simply put, it's two ends. news articles, or my network. I'm searching online for people, and this is how I'll discover some of the subjects, and then I reach out to them. Or it comes from my own network of friends. And in this case, for Mile by Mile, I met Lawrence through a friend. I decided I wanted to shoot some cool motorcycle stuff. I'd never shooten dirt bikes, and I was wanting to shoot a film around that. They're loud, they're aggressive, they're fast, and that's kind of how I like to film at times. And so I had a couple weeks to shoot this film. And so I reached out to my friend Victor, who's part of the Moto Social, an incredible network and community of motorcycle riders, and he connected me to Lawrence. He mentioned that he knew a guy who had completed the Dakar Rally, the first Canadian ever to do it. And so I was thinking, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. And I called up Lawrence and realized there is a cool story here to be told, and he lives just about 45 minutes down the road from me. Abedenser asks, is it okay to add noise to your film? And he was actually referencing some of the shots in the film that I added noise. Well, yes, I added noise to the film, and I think it's a great thing to do when it matters. In this case, I added noise to shots where I was talking about Lawrence's memory, and it was a hallucination in this crazy moment, so it made sense to add it. So yes, adding noise is totally normal. Sometimes adding a bit of grain, that's what I used. I used film nitrate on this to add that grain. It can give the film another layer of texture. Da Vinci's asks, what is the aspect ratio for this? Well, I shot DCI 4K, which is 4096 by something else, and then I cropped it to 2:3:5:1, which is a classic anamorphic look. And with the anamorphic flares and the idea of motorcycles whipping across screen, I really liked that aspect ratio. Wojciech mentions that the sound in the interview and B-roll is very crisp. Did I use the Sheps? Yes, I'm using it right now. It is a $3,000 microphone, so I sure as heck hope it sounds good, which it does. But if you're looking for something cheaper, there is great options by Sennheiser, which we use. But what you're looking for is not just a mic that's crisp, but that a mic that can get the full depth and breadth of someone's chest cavity, of their voice. That's where a lot of the voice comes from, is their chest.
The reputation of it being the most difficult, toughest rally to finish is based on so many people coming back not finishing, or even, never being able to continue racing, or even dying.
And just a few questions left here. Tim asks me, now that I've finished the film, what would I have changed? Great question. You should always be asking yourself this after every film, and then you should take some notes about what you would like to change. And I wrote some down here. What I would have changed is I would have spent more time talking to Lawrence about the moment of failure, which is the moment of tension, which is the whole point of the film. I felt, looking back at the film, we kind of breezed over that moment where he had his bike break down and he thought he could never complete the Dakar Rally. We did in turn do that crazy kind of hallucination sequence, and he spoke about the frustration around it. But I wish I would have just gotten a bit more detail around that, because a lot of people came out of watching Mile by Mile and asking, well, how did he actually, and there were some questions left. So yeah, I would have spent more time focusing on that hurdle that he was experiencing during the race. Simply put, focus more on the tension. Two last questions. Many of you asked me, including Matthias Skoog and a bunch of others, how did I get this archival footage? Well, we had a bunch of VHS tapes that Lawrence owned. And so I found literally a post outside my office, which the guy was advertising that he captures VHS tapes. And so we sent them to that guy. He was kind of sketchy, but he got it done, and we put them in the film. But because I'm not taking this to a broadcaster, we didn't have to get everything cleared for this film. And the last question here is from Harry Knight, saying, after getting the story, what were some of the essential upfront and choices and decisions I made? So essentially, once I knew I wanted to make this film, what was I planning before I went out and recorded? For me, one of the most important things in my edits is variety. Do I have enough different shots for this film? Because if I'm just getting the same sequences over and over again, well, then my film's gonna get repetitive and boring very quick. So before I go to film, I try to write a list of different scenes and different textures. What I mean by different textures is different feelings. Am I gonna shoot this on a long lens? Am I gonna shoot this at night? Is it gonna be outdoors? Or are we gonna be panning really quickly? Am I gonna do a high shutter angle, making a really aggressive sequence like these shots of Lawrence following on the bike? So these are the decisions I'm making ahead of time so that I have variety in the edit. Variety is the spice of life, and it's the spice of your edit. It's gonna help you cover new scenes when you have new footage and new styles of shooting. Whereas if you're just shooting in the same location and it's all slow motion, it's all in the same lens, it can get boring after a while and repetitive in the edit. So I look for variety before I go out. So that's what I did. And one of the ways of getting this variety was getting all of the archival footage, both during the years that Lawrence rode and also really far back in the 1970s when the Dakar was just starting off. So there you go, that's the Q&A for Mile by Mile. Again, if you like the music in the film, go check out MusicBed. I'll put a link below for their subscriptions. And if you guys want me to talk more technical this year, let me know this, but I can also give you more of a glimpse just into what's going on in my head and what's going on in my life. Make this more conversational around what I'm doing in my career. I'm happy to do both. I love talking, so I can talk all day about the things going on in my life and in my career. But if you just want this channel to be sticking to the technical, let me know below. I would love to get your feedback and would love this channel to serve you better in 2022. And I'm excited to make more crazy videos in 2022 and finish off some films I've been working on for a very long time. But until then, I'll see you on the next one.